It is the Bud Light Bobby Wilder Coaches Show. The weekend of football activity on campus and around Monarch Nation has begun. Hi, everybody. Ted Alexander with the coach, Bobby Wilder, here at Buffalo Wild Wings, Monticello Avenue in downtown Norfolk. Don't forget, the game is a 6 o'clock kickoff. It's a silver out. Old Dominion and Campbell this Saturday. Our contest brought to you in part by State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. All right, Coach, fourth quarter. You're in full control of this game. It's 45-7 against Hampton. You know the weather might be a factor, or do you? I mean, you guys are oftentimes keeping concentrated only on football. Do you have half an eye on the Weather Channel?
Yeah, we've been watching it most of the day and later that afternoon, and then our director of football operations, Chris Crouch, was down on the sideline. He had his phone. We had the map in motion pulled up on it so we could actually see the storm, and we knew when it hit Williamsburg. We knew that William and Mary was in a delay in their game, and we had a pretty good idea that by the end of the third quarter, early fourth quarter, we were probably going to get hit. So when we got that lead, we were trying to keep the clock going as much as we could. We completely slowed down our offense. It was all run plays. Take the 25-second clock all the way down to 1 and just try to get the game in if we could.
So here we have technology, the smartphone of Mr. Crouch, rearing its head here in 2012 with the Monarch football program. Without that technology, where would your team have been?
We would have been like most people without a phone who just felt the temperature drop about 30 degrees.
It was
and went,
unbelievable.
okay, something's
the wind
coming.
went from A to Z in a
Yes,
hurry.
it did. I've never felt anything like that.
It can be very difficult. I mean, in a baseball game, you can get in the dugout and just sort of relax a little bit, other sports. But in football, it's such a physical sport. To shut it down, how do you keep it so you don't totally shut it down?
Well, I was hoping that at that point where we all saw the lightning and the officials did the right thing and said we've got to get everybody out of here right now off the field, I was hoping they would cancel the game at that point, because I took Chris's phone out, showed it to the official. That line of thunderstorms was all the way down to Florida. It was all the way up and down the East Coast. Everybody was in delays, and at that point, your biggest concern is the safety of everybody, not just the players on the field, but the fans. And what are you going to do? He says we go into a half-hour delay. Well, I was hopeful that Hampton at that point would say, that's enough. Let's get everybody out of here. But they asked us to go back to the locker room, and the general rule is that it's a half hour before you can come back after the last lightning strike. Well, what the map showed us was that the lightning strikes were going to continue throughout the night, but they still sent us to the locker room, and they wanted to wait.
And so they waited, I believe, about 19, 20 minutes or so. And then the word came down that, all right, we're finished playing football. Old Dominion wins 45-7. Everything's fair and square. Both teams were in agreement there. Right. And your thoughts at that point?
I was excited because at that point we'd been back in we basically didn't go back down in the locker room. The locker room situation was very difficult. We were by a pool, so it was about 100 degrees in the locker room. So we kept the kids up in the hallway to at least try to keep some air circulating, and just had them sitting down and trying to stretch a little bit. But I wasn't comfortable that they would go back out, Ted, and not injure themselves. So I was very excited when we got the word the game was done. One
of the nice things about having Coach Wilder here during the Bud Light Bobby Wilder Coaches show is that we named the show after him. He's got to show up. But also, you can help teach youngsters that are beginning their athletic careers. Is there something you expect and hope your athletes do in terms of hydration, taking care of themselves in these types of situations and the days before that can help out?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, when you know the weather's going to be like it was, and for the first 2 weeks, Ted, we had this situation with Duquesne where it was up over 100 degrees on the field with the heat index, and it was up over 90 degrees Saturday. Is educating them on hydrating themselves the entire week.
They've got to be smart about this.
Yeah, they do. Leading up to the game, you try to stay away from anything caffeinated. There was a lot of water, Gatorade. Water's still the best thing, but the Gatorade, Pedialyte, everything that you can do to try to help them so they don't dehydrate, they don't cramp, and worst of all, they don't pull a muscle.
45-7, the final score. Old Dominion over Hampton to run their record to 2-0. You thought you'd be 2-0 at this point. You've got confidence in your team, and your team, especially defensively, has played rather nicely.
They have. You always have an expectation, Ted, that you're going to win when you go into the games. But as we learned in that first game with Duquesne, down 20-10 at halftime, nothing is given. You've got to go out and earn it. So the expectation was to be 2-0. But I'm very excited with what I've seen from our defense. Hampton had 25 carries for 28 yards. in that game, a 1.1 yard average, and that's exceptional. At this point, we've given up 52 yards a game rushing, and that's where it starts. You've got to be able to stop the run on defense, and you've got to be able to have a measure of consistency running the ball on offense, and so far so good.
As you being a fan, tries to dissect each and every thing about Monarch football, the thing they came up with after the Hampton game was discipline and penalties. And if there was a negative headline, it was with the penalties that helped the Pirates score that one touchdown. Let's talk about the personal fouls, etc. It was a bugaboo a couple of years ago. You moved away from that, and it seems to have seeped a little bit back in. Is that just something that happens that needs to be retaught each and every day, or is it something else?
No, it's something that really the players need to take ownership of this, Ted. We had some issues last year when we played Hampton with a couple personal fouls on both sides of the ball, and we talked to our players about that going into the game, that we've got to play Old Dominion football and stay away from the talking before and after the plays. And unfortunately, we got caught up in some of that. And Eric Saylor being the guy who really got caught up in it, he said to me there was a lot of talk between the offensive line and between him and some of the other defensive linemen. And you've got to maintain that level of discipline where it's 6 seconds of aggressive execution. That's the average length of a play, 6 seconds. And then when the play's over, we've got to move on and play the next play. And when you don't do that, then you put your team in a bad situation, which Eric knows he did. With that personal foul we talked about, up 14-0 on 3rd and 15. Well, we're out of that drive, and instead they go down and score. So we talked about it. We dealt with it with some discipline this week, not just for Eric, but other players that had what I called undisciplined penalties. And when I say that, Ted, it's not just the personal fouls, but also talking about the false starts, where you jump off sides because you're not concentrating as an offensive player, or the offsides on defense. Those lack of discipline penalties, you're going to get holding. You're going to get pass interference. Some of those penalties are inevitable. They happen both ways. And when I look at our league right now, the average team is getting about 6 to 8 penalties per game. And you can live with that. Those things will happen if you're being aggressive, as they're happening throughout our league and across the country. But it's the lack of discipline penalties that we had gotten away from. They showed up Saturday, and they're not going to be allowed back into this football team.
And Eric Saylor's been suspended for this game against Campbell this week, and I guess message sent to the rest of the team.
Yeah, and I made that decision Sunday when I got in Sunday morning and reviewed the video and saw the hit. It was unnecessary. He didn't need to do it, and rightfully so for the official throwing out of the game. And generally in those situations, the league reviews anybody who's been kicked out of a game, and I didn't wait for the league to look at it. I made that decision right away that he was going to be suspended, and talked to the team about it and said, not only are you going to be suspended if that happens, but you're going to run 50 gassers for that disqualification. And then Eric had 15 for the first personal foul, 15 for the second, and 5 for an offside. So he had to run 85 gassers this week. And I told him that it's definitely for the Campbell game, and if he doesn't handle this right, it may be for the New Hampshire game as well.
It's the Bud Light Bobby Wilder Coaches Show, live from Buffalo Wild Wings, Monticello Avenue in Norfolk. Monarchs getting ready to take on the Campbell University Camels at Foreman Field at SB Ballard Stadium this Saturday evening. Our game this weekend is brought to you in part by Old Point National Bank, offering you convenient branches throughout Hampton Roads and 43,000 ATMs worldwide as part of the All Point surcharge-free ATM network. Visit oldpoint.com or download the All Point mobile locator app to find an ATM near you. Coming up, we'll talk about moving on up for the Monarch football program. Also, your phone call, 757-687-9494. Got some questions from the folks here at Buffalo Wild Wings, and we'll look forward to getting to those. All part of the Bud Light Bobby Wilder Coaches Show. And we'll be back after this message from Team Monarch partner Pepsi. Pepsi, refresh everything! You can tell Nick Mayers wanted to get on the score sheet because of the second, third, and fourth effort that he gave on that particular play. Right. Hadn't caught a ball all day. Second half comes along. He says, Taylor, give me a break here. So Taylor gets the pass to the senior.
Third touchdown of the year.
Third touchdown for Nick Mayers, who always, he can score from anywhere. He's one of those kind of guys.
Yes, he can.
All right, time now for our Lexus Look Ahead, brought to you by your local Lexus dealer, who invites you to test drive a luxurious Lexus today, the Campbell game. The punch the Camels took to the stomach was arguably their best player. Their quarterback took a hit to the jaw in their game against UVA Wise and is gone for this game and perhaps longer.
Yeah, that's really disappointing. Yeah, very good player. We remember him from last year, Ted. His first game for Campbell was last year against us when he led them on that opening touchdown drive. And through 2 games, Ted, he'd been averaging 260 yards of total offense, and a player that reminds me a lot of Taylor in terms of very good with the ball, good decision maker, but also a very good runner with the football. And unfortunately, Braden Smith took a really bad shot in the jaw, broke his jaw, had to have surgery early this week. And we'll see Dakota Wolf in this game, who we hadn't seen a lot of, Ted. We actually had to go and do some research, pull up his high school video to watch his videos just so we could see the style of quarterback he is. And Dakota Wolf's a very good athlete. He's a good runner. He's 6'3", 200 pounds, so he's a fairly good size quarterback. But that's who we expect to see in this game. They also list Nick Potts, who's a redshirt junior, who's also a bigger quarterback, but literally a very tough break for Campbell.
Antonio Vaughn lit up the Camels in his coming out party a year ago, 191 all-purpose yards. After the Camels had scored first, Vaughn and company really turned on the Jets there.
Yeah, he had an excellent game, as you mentioned, Ted. He scored. He caught the ball, scored on a pass play, he scored on a reverse last year. He's very effective running the ball. And the one thing I would expect to see in this football game, Ted, is that we'll keep trying to spread the ball around as much as we can. I'd like to see another game like our first game where we had 11 guys get catches. You know, all 3 running backs catch the ball. I'd like to see 7 to 8 wide receivers catch the ball. And I think our offense is at its best when you and I can sit here on a Thursday night and I have no idea who to say could be the leading receiver. You know, when we have that type of an ability to spread the ball around in the offense. Now, at this point, Blair Roberts is our leading pass catcher, and he's doing it, Ted, out of an inside receiver position, which is good. And Larry Pinkard's our second leading receiver, yet Nick Mayers is our returning all-conference guy, and he scored 3 touchdowns. So I'm hopeful we can get the ball spread around again like we did that the first game.
You had 6 different guys score touchdowns against Hampton. I mean, there's distribution.com.
Absolutely,
right there.
Yeah. If you're looking at us defensively, the best thing we could do offensively is make it where if you're a defensive coordinator facing us, you're not sure who to try to double or who to really pay attention to. You got to defend the whole field, all 53 yards.
It's our Lexus look ahead. You're wearing the camo hat. It's Military Appreciation Night. It is a silver out. Talk to me how special that is for your program.
Oh, what a great night, Ted. We have so many of our kids, number one on our team, so many of our kids that have family members involved in the military. Jonathan Plisco's cousin's about to be deployed. It's coming up next week, and now here's an opportunity, first and foremost, for Old Dominion, that we have strong ties at Old Dominion with the military. We've got the world's largest naval base 3 miles down the road, and to be able to honor the military, to be able to have a specially designed uniform that we're going to wear. Tommy Rapier, our equipment manager, was able to get his hands on a few of these hats, like the hat I'm wearing right now. It's all to have a tribute towards the military. And you know, Ted, we honor the servicemen before every game. Yeah, thank you, everybody. We honor the military before every game with a Wounded Warrior program, and I'm really excited, Ted, that we're able to do this for our military.
What does your team need to do to go to 3-0?
Number one, take care of the football. I really like that, Ted, what we did against Hampton, taking it away 4 times, not turning the ball over. We haven't fumbled yet this year, so the running backs, receivers securing the ball. Taylor Heineke's run the ball 22 times to this point and secured it well. So take the ball away, not turn it over, and then be smart with field position. That's Old Dominion football. We've got to control field position.
Coach, best of luck against the Camels on Saturday.
You got it, Ted. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's our Lexus look ahead. It's been brought to you by Lexus, your local Lexus dealer, who invites you to test drive a luxurious Lexus today. So there you have it for the Bud Light Bobby Wilder Coaches Show. Don't forget, your Monarch Football Saturday begins with a brand new program. It's called Inside Monarch Nation. It's a radio show from 9 until 10 on Norfolk affiliate ESPN Radio 94.1. Join host Doug Ripley for highlights, interviews, insights, and more inside Monarch Nation this Saturday at 9 o'clock. And then we'll have you for the Toyota pregame show Saturday beginning at 5 o'clock. And then kickoff, Old Dominion and Campbell Military Appreciation Night from Foreman Field at SB Ballard Stadium Saturday at 6 o'clock. I want to thank everybody for coming out to Buffalo Wild Wings. I want to thank the gang from Bud Light for being our title sponsor. For Ryan and Al from ESPN Radio and Paul and Drakkar from Monarch Media, Ted Alexander, good night from Buffalo Wild Wings and the Bud Light Bobby Wilder Coaches Show.